This episode of Places She Shapes is sponsored by JAC Project Management. Grace has already done what many people spend years working up to. Through a degree apprenticeship, she built her career in quantity surveying from 18 years old, then launched Sable Sage, aged just 24. In this New Tracks episode, Grace talks about apprenticeships, starting a business young, pregnancy, boundaries, and what it takes to be taken seriously when you're often the youngest woman in the room. Grace, welcome to Places She Shapes at Abbey Road Studios. This is our New Tracks series. Do you mind telling me a bit about what you do and your company?
Yes, so I own a company called Sable Sage, which I set up last year, about 18 months ago. Left a big corporate company before. That's where I did all my training. So a quantity surveyor is somebody who I work client side. So I represent the client in all aspects of their commercial works around the project. So I work with the client from before the contract's involved, set the budgets, make sure they're adhered to essentially after that, and then have a big role in the contract as well and pulling that together and monitoring the contractor and making sure they adhere to that.
Yeah, perfect. What is it you like about your job?
Um, I like the variety. I think I was always someone who wanted to get out and do things practically, but also didn't want to work on a construction site full time. I like the corporate side and I like people. Um, so I like speaking to people and being around people, but also having the balance of being able to sit at a desk and blitz through loads of work works quite well for me.
Yeah. Okay. So if we talk to a 8-year-old Grace, what would 8-year-old Grace have been into? What do you think she would have wanted to do for a living?
Good question. I think at one point I wanted to be a pilot, but I don't know where that came from
Okay,
because
that's
I'm
cool.
quite claustrophobic. So I think I then saw a cockpit and thought that's not going to work. um, my mum always said that I would work with men because of sort of my relationship with boys. I've always had girlfriends and worked well around girls as well, but I think I don't have that sort of really feminine soft side to my personality so much. I've always been bossy. So my mum's always said I'd be a lawyer or work with a lot of men, which probably translates quite well now.
Yeah. And were you sporty, academic?
Academic, sporty as well, a gymnast, but
Oh, really?
not ball sports. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. So tell me about your education. What happened after GCSEs?
So sat my GCSEs, which I loved, always loved school in that sense. And then did my A levels at the same school, which I didn't love so much. I thought I didn't spend a lot of time in my lessons. I preferred to just study on my own. So did my A levels, got through them and they were totally fine. And then I left school. So I applied to G&T, my previous employer, while I was still at school. And I spoke to a few career advisors, and we sort of had these sessions in school and people were talking about degree apprenticeships. And I was like, I think that would work quite well for me. I didn't particularly want to go to uni full time. I would have gone, but it wasn't something that I was dead set on doing. So I heard about it and then I spoke to my parents. They were like, no, you're too clever to be doing an apprenticeship, because it just wasn't a thing. I don't know, maybe it's changed a little bit more so now. But I don't know, you need to go to uni. And I was trying to explain to them that it's the same thing, I mean, actually arguably harder because you're doing your degree and working at the same time. But I'm very headstrong. So I made that decision myself to apply and do a degree apprenticeship. And I was the only one in my year. I think but people went on to do various apprenticeships, but to do that degree.
So the apprenticeship thing was put forward as a possible option for you at school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, someone had told me about it. I don't know who it was. There was some sort of session and I hadn't heard of it before that. But I was like, that sounds like a win-win, really, which
Yeah.
it did end up being.
Yeah. And you went to G&T to do a QS?
Yes. Yes. They offered project management or QS, but went in QS.
How did you know what a QS... I mean, I definitely didn't know what a QS was when I was 18. How did you know what a QS even was?
My uncle works in construction, so I was kind of aware of it, but I didn't really know sort of any details. And I knew I wanted to do something maths related because that's kind of what I was good at,
Uh,
but didn't want to be a banker, basically. So I was in this situation of like, what are the options? And did some research and did some work experience placements at a few different companies. And I was like, yeah, this worked.
so what does that apprenticeship look like?
So I applied while I was in school, did my A levels, finished them in the summer, had the summer off, and then went into G&T in the September intake. And then it consists of essentially working full time, then a day a week you go to university.
Okay.
G&T actually fast tracked the program, so rather than 5 years, we did it in 4, and overlapped my chartership as well with that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a lot to pack into 4 years.
Yeah, I think what was quite good about it was that where I'd come from GCSEs, A levels, and then to do that, I didn't feel like I was overwhelmed. But I think if I'd gone away to uni for 3 years and then gone into that, I would have been like, "This is crazy." But you're used to working so much, so
Yeah,
it
that's true.
didn't feel
That's true. So what does the apprenticeship look like from a work point of view? How hands-on are you?
really hands on. So from the beginning, straight into working on projects, being put in front of clients. I mean, I remember being terrified to pick the phone up. Someone said to me,
Yeah.
"Can you call so and so about this?" And I knew them, but I was so scared to pick the phone up because I just didn't know how to speak to
But
people.
you're only 18. You know, it's
Yeah.
very young to be in a corporate work environment, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm very much in that environment as well, in meetings and presenting and things like that from, yeah, being 18. I look back now and I'm like, you don't know what any difference. So you
Uh,
just get on with it. But I'm also like, I don't know how I did that
yeah.
at that point.
So you were at G&T for a while, and then what happened next?
So I was, yeah, there for 6 years. And then I was just thinking about sort of longer term, what I wanted to do. And I knew, like, I loved my job and there was no real issue with it, but it was just sort of looking long term of, do I want to be in a corporate company? Do I want to work for myself? Do I want to work somewhere else? And just sort of having those thoughts. Um, And then I just spoke to my partner about sort of what it would look like to own a business. And then it kind of manifested and, as I said, very headstrong. So when I get an idea in my head, it sort of then snowballs.
Mm.
And that's sort of where Sable Sage was born from, was thinking I was working in hospitality at G&T, like hospitality projects. And there were a lot of projects that I was noticing were coming up but were too small for G&T. They couldn't afford their fees or just G&T wouldn't have looked at them.
Uh,
But I didn't know where those projects were going
uh,
because I knew that there obviously existed other project management companies and quantity surveying companies, but I didn't know that they were delivering that same level of service. And speaking to people in the industry, it didn't seem like there was that there.
uh.
Um, so I thought I'd step in and fill the gap.
So how old were you when you set up this company?
I set it up when I was 23 and left G&T when I was 24.
Amazing. So you're officially my youngest business owner that I've spoken to, which I'm delighted about. What would you say to anybody that's thinking about starting their own company?
Do it. 100% do it. Know what you want to do. I think I probably went into it a little bit blind in terms of I didn't really have like a firm business plan or things like that. I knew what I wanted it to be, but I just figured it out. I'm still figuring it out.
Of course, we're all still figuring it
Yeah.
out. So where did your ambitions start, do you think? Because you're obviously quite a driven, ambitious person.
I think I've always been ambitious. I don't know where it started. I wouldn't say that I have sort of any real role models or any point in time that I can remember being like, right, I'm going to be ambitious now. But
Uh,
I think just always wanting to do well. I've always been, as I say, quite academic and always sort of had that buzz of getting exam results back and those sort of things. So I think it was just always the next thing. So
Yeah.
the GCSEs, the A levels, the degree, just always wanting to have the next thing, the chartership.
Yeah,
And then I think maybe that was part of the reason I set Sable Sage up was I obviously didn't reach my ceiling at G&T. There's so much more I could have
of
done,
course.
but it was, what's the next thing? What can I have next? So
Yeah. So what are your ambitions for yourself and the company?
I think I currently am just loving what I'm doing and I want to continue doing that. Um, similar sized projects. I don't have sort of ambitions of growing it to be this massive company that employs 50, 100 people. Um, it it works for me at the moment with lifestyle wise and having a baby, and coming back from that and having Sable and Sage around, it is reassuring. Um, but I'm working with some really cool clients, and I like working in really cool buildings as well. So I think just continuing to sort of build that up is the ambition, really.
So you've got the ability to pick the kind of projects that you want to do.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt a pressure to adapt or harden yourself, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was actually just saying in the green room before just about being on construction sites, and from really young as well, because it was from that
We're super young.
being 18, well, 16, doing work experience and stuff. You sort of realise that people aren't just going to be nice to you just because you're a young girl, or, make any concessions of how they talk to you. You do have to, yeah. I think you have to mirror people in a sense, and not necessarily change your personality, but how I speak to people on site would be very different to how I'd speak to people in my real life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's a pressure that I've ever felt that I needed to be something else. But I think I realised if I wanted to be respected or spoken to how I wanted to, then I had to do that.
Okay. And what do you think are the other challenges that are facing women of your sort of age? This episode of Places She Shapes is sponsored by JAC Project Management. JAC have been delivering stunning offices, providing expert advice, honest leadership, and a can-do attitude since 1979. Project management, cost consultancy, and contract administration for office fit-out and relocation projects. JAC creates spaces where people and businesses can thrive. You can find out more at jac-group.co.uk. And what do you think are the other challenges that are facing women of your sort of age?
I think there's a big thing that I've thought about a lot, and it was a big thing for Sable and Sage in terms of women being able to have it all, and people wanting families, not wanting families, maternity leave. How does that set you back? How do you plan around that? It's something I thought about a lot in terms of, well, that wouldn't be the right time to have a baby. But when is the right time to have a baby? And those
Never a
things.
right time.
And everyone will say to you, you don't have to put your career on pause, but you're out of work for 6 months, a year. Of course, it's, staggering. So I think it's a challenge, and you can navigate it however you want, but it's something you have to think about. And people
So you're having a baby in a few months. How have you come to terms with a change? You've been working full time since you were 18. How have you come to terms with what's this change that's coming up?
I didn't come to terms with it straight away. I remember sitting with my parents when I first found out I was pregnant, and they were like, "What's your plan for maternity leave?" Because it's just me and the business. And I said, well, I'll have a few months off and then probably like phase work in, and my mum will be around to look after the baby. And my dad was like, hey, probably need to give this a bit more thought. And it's something, it really stressed me out because I don't like letting people down. I think anyone that owns their own business, that's a big thing for them.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to walk away from clients. And also, genuinely every project I work on, I love for different reasons. I didn't want to hand it over to someone else. But I've worked out now a plan where things have coincidentally finished at a nice time. I've got projects done. There's a few things I need to hand over, but I've got someone that's going to step into Sable and Sage rather than giving it away. So I'm a bit of a control freak. So I know that it can stay where it needs to be. And I feel comfortable with that now.
That's great. That's really great. How do you balance ambition with life outside work?
Quite well now, since I've had the business. I work every day, but in different capacities. And, I've got used to accepting that there are weeks where I will work 7 days, 12-hour days, and it would be really quite awful. And I'll get into bed every night and think, what do I need to do tomorrow? And you have that. But there are also weeks where, this week's a good example. I haven't got much on. There are things that need to tick over, and I'm speaking to people, and I'll speak on the phone and answer emails, but I can then bring my life into the week as well. It's definitely not a 9 to 5 thing. But
And when you were at G&T, how was the balance then?
yeah, also fine. I think one thing I struggled there in the corporate world was I'm very high functioning and very efficient. So I found that a lot of the time I was the tasks that I had to do, I'd get them done before lunchtime, for example, and then I knew I had to sit there until the end of the day. But then it's the same thing. You obviously have longer days where you're really stressed, but I felt that there was a lot of time that I was being inefficient because had been so efficient, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah, definitely. What kind of leader are you? And obviously just you and your company at the moment, but you're leading projects to a certain degree. What kind of leader do you think you are?
That's a good question. I'm very organised. So I think people know where they stand with me in terms of what I expect from them because I'm very open about that. I basically just have trackers and trackers and trackers of people when things need to be done and when it needs to be done by. And generally people respect that, I think, because they know where they
Very
are.
clear. Yeah,
I think so.
it's great. A standard or boundary you want to hold on to?
Having a work-life balance. I think I'm going to see that a lot more as well in the next year when I go back to work. But yeah, working really hard, but also being able to say to people, I'm not working today, and for whatever reason that might be. But protecting your own time as much as giving people a lot of your time.
Perfect. And a part of yourself that you're learning to trust?
Quite a few things. One thing I find in recent months I've been struggling with, but trying to trust myself with, is knowing that you are the professional. And I think there's that young woman thing definitely in the back of your head. But speaking to big clients, CEOs of big companies who are telling you you're wrong, but you're right. And I think I'm getting better at saying I am right rather than, when it's just you, it's easy to sit in a room and be like, oh yeah, I'll take it away and have a look at it, but you're right.
Yeah.
So I'm getting better at that, but it needs some work.
Can you just go back to that young woman thing? Just expand on that a bit for me.
Yeah, there's definitely times where I've been sat in a room and I'm getting a lot better at it now, but you sort of look around the room and you're like, oh, there's 12 people in here and I'm the only woman for a start. And I am a lot younger than a lot of the people in this room. So you can get in your own head about that, definitely. And maybe people aren't thinking it, but you think they are.
Yeah. Do you still notice when you're the only woman in the room?
A lot less so. It's quite nice, actually. I said to someone the other day, I was on a Teams call that I was leading about some insurance thing or something quite boring. But I looked at everyone on the Teams call at the end of the call and I was like, right, cool, wrapped up. We got to the solution. I was like, there's 10 people on this call and they're all 50 plus men. And we got to the solution that I wanted. And it's a nice feeling.
Yeah, that's great. Well done. So if you could look back at your 10-year-old self, what would you say to her?
I would say just keep working hard. I mean, it really pays off to work hard. I think there's definitely a thing when you're in school where you think it's not cool to work hard. And I definitely had times of that. But yeah, just keep working hard and also don't put too much pressure on yourself because you'll always end up where you need to be, basically.
Yeah. What if you hadn't done that apprenticeship, what do you think you'd be doing now?
I think I would still have ended up in QSing because I think I did apply to uni as well and I applied for QS degrees. So I think I would probably be doing something similar. But I think where doing the apprenticeship helped me massively was the experience. I had 4 years of experience before anyone else had even left uni. So I think I'd still be 4 years behind really in my career.
Yeah. And you came out without any debt.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
I think it's such an amazing thing that G&T do and lots of companies do that I mean, I don't know because I don't have children of university age and anything, but it just feels like not enough people are looking at it or thinking about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what it's like now. I only can speak from G&T's perspective in terms of I know that the numbers were increasing every year with their intakes. And I mean, their support and everything they have in place is absolutely amazing. But definitely when I applied, there weren't enough people talking about it. And I speak to people now and they're like, oh, it's just a no-brainer. What's the downside?
Yeah.
The only real downside is that you don't go away to uni and have loads of fun for 3 years. But
Yeah. And so you still lived at home when you did it?
yeah.
Yeah. And when you look forward to Grace when she's retiring, what would you want your, you know, if you're there and you're looking back at your career, what do you think you'd like to have achieved?
I think I would like to look back and think I worked as hard as I could, but I didn't lose myself or my life with that. I don't want to retire and look back and say I didn't spend enough time with my children, or I took on too much work and killed myself for 5 years or whatever that period is.
Yeah.
But I even look back now and it's, you know, I am still so early in my career, but I look back on my portfolio and the clients that I've worked with and the projects that I've worked on, and I'm really proud of that. So to think what that might be like when I retire, it excites me.
So as you know, the podcast is called Places She Shapes. So I've got some shaping moments questions. So the first one is the places question. So you walk into a room, everyone you've ever met is in the room, dead or alive, excluding your immediate family. Who would you look for first and why?
I haven't thought about this, but the first person that just popped into my head, weirdly, is one of my high school teachers. His name was Mr. Murphy, but he was my head of year, and also my history teacher. But through my time in high school, was very supportive of me in general, but also of the degree apprenticeship thing. And yeah, I would like to talk to him. I suppose I could just speak to him.
What would you say to him?
I did just thank you for like having that support.
Yeah.
And I tell him to tell more people to do what I've done.
Yeah, amazing. And then the she question. Who's the woman that you turn to for advice and why?
My mum. Always my mum. We're very similar in a lot of ways, but also very different. But I feel like any time I've ever asked her something, she's given me the right answer, or the answer not necessarily that I was looking for. There's a lot of that.
A good answer.
A good answer, yeah.
Great. And the final question is the shapes question. So how would you shape your ideal day?
I would get up early because I like being up early. I don't like getting up, but once I'm up, I like being up.
I understand.
And then I'd get most of my work done in the morning when it's bright. I work really well in the morning rather than the afternoon. And then I would spend the afternoon monitoring emails, but just pottering around by myself.
Nice. Lovely. Sounds like a great day. Grace, you've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, follow Places She Shapes wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss the rest of season 3.